Long time no see, my fellow Americans. What a fucking ride, huh? I take a couple of weeks off to rest, and I wake up to a reality where try-hard wannabe soldier boys rappel down from Black Hawk helicopters to rip half-naked children out of their beds to zip-tie them to other half-naked children, while autism is being falsely linked to Tylenol before, due to lack of traction, is going on to be linked to circumcision, completely disregarding any AFAB autistic people. Not to mention the slew of firings of special education employees who have been vital to students' access to meals, safety, and accommodation. All the while, every single two-faced grifter in this regime gets full medical coverage, including vaccines, checkups, and hospital visits, fully funded, by the way, by taxpayer dollars, the benefactors of which will be losing their healthcare subsidies after the midterm elections. Where Speaker of the House Micro Johnson still refuses to swear in Adelita Grijalva as Arizona's newest representative. A priest is shot in the head by ICE with pepper balls for having the audacity to pray in public. A South Carolinian judge's house burns to the ground after failing to kowtow to a dictator. The DUI hire Pete Hegseth has amassed 800 military generals, all to Quantico, just to body shame, threaten, and demand applause of them. Meanwhile, the traitor-in-chief declares that the threat to America is the American public, and then traipses on over to foreign soil to completely disrespect our very own governors, and then goes on to even invite Qatar to build a military base in Idaho, and then goes on to declare the arrest of Illinois governor and Chicago mayor for not playing along with his little Gestapo. By the way, completely ignoring judicial decree that his invasion of blue American cities is unconstitutional, and yet he wants to initiate a gun registry. You listening, homosexuals? Speaking of which, the ongoing government shutdown, as of right now as I'm sitting down to film this video, over the teeny tiny fact of, 20 million Americans going to lose their health care benefits, after which, when they tried to negotiate for preventing the shutdown of the government over this issue, they were told by the paper-skinned pedophile to, and I quote, go fuck themselves. In the meantime, federal workers are furloughed, and that is being forced to work without pay, after which the government resumes they are supposed to receive back pay, except this time he's decreed that only the leather-sucking connoisseurs are entitled to that courtesy. All of this so the House does not have to hold the vote on whether or not to force the release of the Epstein files. And that is just scratching the surface. Portland, Oregon is so war-ravaged that upwards of 12,000 individuals showed up to attend the big marathon on October 4th. It is so war-torn that a puppet killer gnome showed up with cameras in full tactical cosplay to ward off a smiling man in a chicken costume. It is so dangerous, folks, that masked hooligans have to ram a civilian's vehicle, shoot her 5 times, and then bald-faced lie about it. Just as a for instance. While that's going on, as of right now as I film this video, the regime is currently spewing the idea that anybody who is against fascism is considered a domestic terrorist. And while podcaster and FBI director, 2 occupations which should never share a Venn diagram, Kash Patel continues to spew the scary, dangerous Antifa boogeyman in his 2 cents to help the Richard Spud push his agenda towards the Insurrection Act and declare martial law in order to suspend future elections, Attorney General Pam Bondi cannot sit through a Senate oversight hearing without impulsively spewing aggressive vitriol over some very basic questions. Questions which should be pretty easy to answer, such as, have you seen any photos of the tangerine taco with girls of questionable age in the Epstein files? The easy answer should be no, right? Unless that would perjure herself. And speaking of the pedophiles, Some new information came about recently regarding the supposed suicide of America's most notorious child sex trafficker up to date. Not the least of which being the little detail that the morning of August 10th, 2019, before police officers could even arrive on the scene to investigate, Epstein's body had been removed from the scene, where he died. Normally, we call that evidence tampering. And another detail I keep going back to is the thing about the few of his vertebrae, the breaks, they were more consistent with forceful strangulation rather than self-hanging. It kind of reminds me of a story from just a couple of weeks ago regarding a 21-year-old black man by the name of Trey Reed, who was found hanging from a tree on Delta University campus with 4 broken limbs, which local police also deemed a suicide. Yeah, I bet they also really wanted us to believe that the 2 New Jersey teenagers who weren't nice enough to Charlie Kirk just ran themselves over. And ain't it a coinkydink that the Department of Justice just recently removed from their very website the study illustrating proof that the most driving force by far of extremist violence in the United States is in fact white supremacy. Yeah, it's really giving stop testing for COVID and there won't be any more COVID cases vibes. Yeah, we remember the whole stop the count declaration a while back, right? Which of course led to the chain of events that led us up to January 6, 2021, which now the felon-in-chief claims is the fault of former President Joe Biden, even though the whole point of the attack of January 6 was to delay the certification that would have sworn at the time President-elect Joe Biden into office. So, to what purpose would the new guy have to invoke an insurrection to stop the certification in order to make the former guy look bad? Get your bullshit right, Donnie. And while millions of Americans are struggling by the day to perform the basic necessities of life, the government is essentially in a coma. The president and our representatives are continuing to vacation on our dime, while hundreds of thousands of federal employees are continuing to work with dwindling resources without guaranteed pay. And the very troops that were sicked on our streets to terrorize our civilians are, as I speak, lining up for food banks. I don't even have jokes for this bullshit.